Hey everybody, happy Black History Month. So, I have something very special for you guys. I am going to be reading you a story about the artist Jean Michel Basquiat. Okay? So, this story is called Radiant Child. Okay? So, what we're going to do this week is I'm going to read the story, and then next week we're going to do a fun project inspired by Jean-Michel Basquiat. And if you're in person after this video, we're going to get right into it. So stay tuned. So before we get started, let's just learn a little bit about who Jean-Michel Basquiat was. So, Basquiat was born on December 22nd, 1960, and he grew up in Brooklyn, New York. His father was from Haiti, and his mother's family was from Puerto Rico. Living in a trilingual household, meaning his household spoke 3 different languages, which is pretty cool. Basquiat spoke French, Spanish, and English. While his father had some artistic skill, it was his mother who drew with him and took him to museums. At age 17, Jean moved away from home. He sold postcards and t-shirts of his own designs to support himself. He used whatever he could find as a canvas. His first recognized work was a graffiti series created with his friends aloud. He tagged his artwork with the name Samo. He also met and became friends with other famous artists of that time period like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring. Basquiat was known for his charisma, energy, and bold, captivating art. His work was often political and expressive with a strong point of view and message, which is why letters, words, and phrases sometimes appear in his pieces. He addressed topics such as the struggles of everyday people in their fight against capitalism and those with power. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into our story. So we will be reading Radiant Child, the story of a young artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. So let's get started. Somewhere in Brooklyn, between hearts that thump, double dutch, and hopscotch, and salty mouths that slurp sweet tea, a little boy dreams of being a famous artist. In his house, you can tell a serious artist dwells as he sits at the table with pencils scattered everywhere. Jean-Michel draws from morning until night with a serious face amid a storm of papers. He refuses to sleep until he has created a masterpiece. At night, images enchanted Jean-Michels' mind, and he wakes from his dreams to add one more line. His drawings are not neat or clean, nor does he colors inside the lines. They are sloppy, ugly, and sometimes weird, but somehow still beautiful. His art comes from his mother, Matilda, a Puerto Rican woman who designs and sews, cooks and cleans, and makes the house look like a stylish magazine. But most important, she lies on the floor and draws with Jean on his father's old work papers. From her, he learns that art is not only in the poetry books she reads to him or in theaters and museums they visit. Art is in the street games of little children, in our style, and the words that we speak. It is how the messy patchwork of the city creates new meaning for ordinary things. While visiting the museum, they look at his favorite works of art. Reading the story behind each artist, reading the story behind each work, this is how Jean learns what it means to be a famous artist. Back at home, he creates art on the floor as his father, Gerald, plays jazz records. Mama Matilda cooks chicken and rice and calls John mi amor. The energy and life of the city can be felt in each line of his drawing. As time goes by, John learns that art has a healing power. After a car accident, he is scared and confused. Matilda gives him a book to calm his fears. It is filled with pictures of bones, skulls, and other body parts. John draws from it until he knows it all by heart. He is no longer afraid. Back at home, John's body heals, but his heart breaks. His mother's mind is not well, and the family breaks. She no longer lies on the floor and draws with John, but sits by the window singing only to the birds. John is confused and filled with a terrible blues when his mom can no longer live at home. He tries drawing the terrible out of his blues, but things are not the same. As John grows older, he visits his mother when he can, always bringing his artwork to show, telling her that one day it will be in a museum when I am a famous artist. A teenager now, John decides, Papa, I will be very, very famous one day. With a sly look, a twinkle in his eye, John leaves Brooklyn for New York City, the Lower East Side, a concrete jungle where only the tough survive. During the day, dressed in a green jumpsuit splattered with paint, John stays with his friends, sleeping on couches and floors, leaving a barrage of collages and poem-filled papers everywhere he goes. At night, John spray paints the walls downtown with poems and drawings that catch the eye of artists, gallery goers, and passerby. Under his art, he signs the name Samo instead of Jean Michel. Everybody wants to know, who is Samo? Samo moves from street corners to art gallery walls with powerful color composition, line, collaging, and painting on anything he can find. His art is still not neat or clean, and definitely not inside the lines, but somehow still beautiful. With his magical charm, John draws a crowd. But when it's time to work, he prefers to be alone with the radio and TV on full blast. Now in expensive suits splattered with paint, he flips through stacks of magazines and open books and paints onto the night, and sometimes for days at a time, while sounds and images jump into his head. Jean, an artist among artists, never doubts one line, creating from a soundtrack that is all his own. People describe him as a radiant, wild, a genius child. But in his heart, he is king, so he draws crowns for himself and others he admires. A grown man now, with the art world in his hands, John still visits his mother when he can, and at his most important shows, above all the critics, fans, and artists he admires, the place of honor is his mother, a queen on a throne. He is now a famous artist. The end. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I hope you guys are inspired to learn a little bit more about who Jean-Michel Basquiat was. And what we're going to be doing next week is we're going to do a Jean-Michel Basquiat project. So I hope you guys are excited to learn a little bit more about his artwork and his style. And if you are in person, we are going to start our project today. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. And for my in-person friends, let's get to work.